The bridge of the Imperial dreadnought Varkos 9 felt like a silent tomb. Every officer stood frozen in place, their eyes focused on the main display. A single human ship, small, old, and shaped like a metal brick, hovered in the middle of a field of broken Imperial cruisers. Fires drifted in the void. Hull pieces turned slowly like dying stars. And in front of all of it, Captain Relas of the Empire stared at one tiny message on a screen. Checkmate. The word repeated every few seconds, blinking in calm white letters. No threat. No demand. No long speech. Just one simple human word the Empire had learned centuries ago, a word used in a game from Earth, an ancient game humans played with quiet joy. A word that meant, you have lost. Relas could not understand it. He had brought a full squadron. 50 Imperial warships. 50. Against one human vessel. The humans called it the Nightingale. Thin armor. Weak reactor. No heavy cannons. By every Imperial law of war, the humans should be vaporized dust by now. Instead, the Empire's proud fleet drifted like broken toys. Relas stepped closer to the display, his hands shaking. He could not show fear, not in front of his crew, but the truth sat inside him like ice. The human ship had not fired a single shot. Not one. No plasma trails, no railgun bursts, no missiles. Every Imperial cruiser around him had simply stopped working. The lights died. The engines shut down. The ships fell quiet and powerless as if someone had whispered a command and the metal obeyed. The bridge crew whispered among themselves, their voices small and frightened. Engineers tried to restart the dreadnought's engines, but every attempt failed. The ship's reactor was healthy, shields were at full strength, but the systems refused to respond. It was as if the Nightingale had reached into the heart of the Empire's greatest weapons and turned them off like lamps. Relas swallowed hard as the human ship drifted toward them. It moved slowly, almost gently, as if it pitied the massive dreadnought. The humans were known to be bold, reckless, stubborn, full of emotion. But they were not known for impossible technology. The Empire had studied them for generations. Humans fought with willpower, not secret weapons. So what had just happened? The communication panel chimed. A secure frequency request. Human origin. The bridge crew looked at Relas, waiting. He gave a small nod. The message opened with a soft click. A human voice filled the bridge. Calm. Steady. Too steady. Imperial Captain Relas, the voice said, without pride or anger. You stand in a position you may not fully understand. Your ships cannot move. Your weapons cannot fire. Your fleet cannot fight. This is not an act of war. It is a demonstration. Relas clenched his jaw. What do you want? There was a short pause. Understanding, the human replied. Your empire keeps testing our borders. We prefer peace. You prefer pressure. So here we are. Relas felt heat rise in his chest. You disabled an entire Imperial squadron with one ship. That is not peace. That, the human voice said softly, is checkmate. The word echoed through the quiet bridge. Officers exchanged looks, fear, confusion, anger, all mixed together. The human continued, we will release your ships in 10 minutes. No one will be harmed. But we suggest you report what you saw. Because next time, we will not be as gentle. The message ended. Relas stood still, the words burning into him. The Empire had measured humans for many years and always found them lacking. Their ships were slower, older, simple. Their tactics were unpredictable, sometimes foolish. Their colonies were few. Their population small. Yet the humans always survived. They always came back. They always found a way. And now? This. On the display, the Nightingale slowly turned. Its engines glowed a soft blue. The small ship drifted away from the battlefield like a shadow returning to darkness. It did not flee. It was not afraid. It simply left because the humans had decided the conversation was over. The Imperial officers began speaking rapidly, sending reports, scanning systems, trying to understand what had disabled 49 ships. Some said it was a new hacking system. Others whispered about some kind of gravity weapon. A few believed the humans had found a way to touch the quantum core of Imperial technology, a thing long believed impossible. Relas listened to them argue until he could not stand it anymore. Enough, he said. His voice cut through the noise. Clean the battlefield. Recover what we can. And prepare a full report for the High Council. They will need to know what we witnessed. The crew fell silent. Relas turned back to the dark window of space. Somewhere out there, humans were watching. Humans who had once been simple, weak, almost laughable. Now they were something else. Something the Empire did not understand. Something dangerous in a quiet, patient way. Far beyond the ruined fleet, a single line of text blinked one last time on Relis's frozen systems. Checkmate. And for the first time since he became a captain, Relis felt small. The report from Captain Relis reached the Imperial High Council within hours, carried by priority channels and wrapped in layers of emergency encryption. The message spread through the upper ranks like a storm wind. Most dismissed it as exaggeration. Some assumed Relis had made a tactical mistake and wanted to hide his shame. Others believed it was only a human trick, something flashy but harmless. Only a few understood the truth hiding inside the captain's calm, frightened words. One of those few was Admiral Keithrin. Keithrin stood in the central chamber of the High Council, a massive hall of dark stone and floating data screens. The council members sat high above him, half hidden behind holographic shields that showed only shapes, not faces. Their voices echoed across the chamber, cold and slow, as they debated Relis's message. "We should ignore this," one counselor said. "Humans do not have such power." "Captain Relis is respected," another replied. "His record is clean. Something happened. Then he is lying or confused. Or the humans cheated." The voices tangled together, each one unwilling to accept the idea that the Empire had been outplayed by a single human vessel. Admiral Keithrin listened in silence, but his mind raced. He had fought humans before. He had seen their ships burn and seen their colonies fall. But he had also seen something else, something the Empire refused to talk about. Humans adapted. They built faster, learned faster, changed faster. Every year, they grew stronger. Not always in obvious ways, but in small steps that always led somewhere surprising. Keithrin finally spoke. "The captain's report is consistent with sensor data. Every ship in the squadron lost control at the exact same moment. The systems did not fail. They shut down by command." A counselor leaned forward behind the holographic haze. "Are you saying the humans now control our technology?" "I am saying," Keithrin replied carefully, "that we do not know what they can control." Silence filled the chamber. Another counselor spoke up, older and slower in tone. "What do you suggest, Admiral?" Keithrin took a breath. "Send a diplomatic envoy. Ask the humans for an explanation." The room erupted with laughter, anger, disbelief. "Ask them?" One counselor snapped. "We are the Empire. We demand." "Humans respond poorly to demands," Keithrin replied. "We are not here to make them comfortable." Keithrin resisted the urge to sigh. These counselors had grown fat with power. They had forgotten fear. They had forgotten danger. They had forgotten what humans were capable of when cornered or underestimated. Another counselor spoke, her voice sharp. "Then what do you propose instead, Admiral? I assume you have something more than a plea for mercy." Keithrin nodded. "I want to send a recon fleet. Quiet. No weapons drawn. Observe the humans. Monitor their border worlds. See what has changed. And if they attack this fleet the way they attacked Captain Relis? Then we will understand that Captain Relis was right," Keithrin said, "and that we face something new." The council fell silent again, their holographic shapes dimming as they whispered privately among themselves. Keithrin stood still, waiting. He felt as if the whole chamber was leaning toward him, like the air itself wanted to hear his answer before the council reached any conclusion. Finally, the central counselor spoke. "Very well. We will approve a recon mission. But no diplomacy. Not yet." Keithrin bowed. "Understood." The lights in the chamber dimmed as the council dismissed him. He walked out with long, steady steps, but inside his mind, something cold and uneasy stirred. If the humans had truly gained this kind of power, the Empire stood on the edge of a very dangerous line. 2 days later, the recon fleet launched from the Imperial shipyard at Telvera's Prime. It consisted of 12 advanced scout cruisers, fast, quiet, and built to observe without being seen. Their mission was simple: slip along the border of human space and gather every possible detail. On the lead ship, the Shadow's Veil, Captain Merrill reviewed the mission orders with a hard frown. She was young, ambitious, and proud of her skills. But even she felt a small knot of worry reading Relis's report. Her second-in-command, Officer Tallier, noticed. "You think it's true?" Merrill shook her head slowly. "I think Relis saw something. And I think the council is pretending not to be afraid." Tallier chuckled nervously. "Humans. They always surprise someone." "Let's hope they don't surprise us," Merrill replied. The recon fleet entered silent mode and drifted toward human territory. Sensors swept the void. Data streamed across screens. Everything looked normal, almost too normal. Then the first signal appeared. A soft ping. Faint. Almost hidden. A human satellite, old and simple, drifted ahead. It should have ignored them. It should have been harmless. But the moment the fleet came close, a message flashed on every ship in the formation. Your move. Just 2 words. No source. No signature. No explanation. Merrill froze. Collier whispered, they knew we were coming. Merrill stared at the message. It pulsed once, as if smiling. No human ship was in sight. Nothing was nearby. Just the quiet of deep space. And yet, the humans were clearly watching. The Empire had made its move. And now the humans were inviting them to play. The message lingered on every screen inside the recon fleet, 2 simple words glowing in calm white light. Captain Merrill tried to steady her breathing as she stared at them. Your move. It felt like the humans were standing right beside her, whispering into her ear, even though no ship, satellite, or drone showed up on any sensor scan. The bridge of the Shadow's Veil turned tense and silent. Officers checked their consoles, searching for anything unusual, but the void around them was still and empty. It must be a trick, Tallier said quietly. Some kind of pre-broadcast signal. They probably placed it here years ago. Merrill shook her head. Then why did it activate only when we arrived? And why those words? She looked again at the message. No threat. No demand. Just confidence. The fleet waited for her command. She finally spoke. Record everything. Maintain silent mode. Proceed deeper. The recon ships kept moving through human border space with their engines dimmed and profiles minimized. They relied on stealth fields so advanced that even the Empire's own satellites struggled to detect them. Yet the humans had already found them once. Hours passed. Nothing else happened. The fleet drifted past small human listening posts, old outposts, mining stations, and empty cargo routes. Everything looked normal. Too normal. But the quiet felt unnatural, like walking into a house that should be full of noise but instead held only silence and waiting. Eventually sensors picked up a larger object ahead. A human defense station orbited a pale blue moon. It was old, made of thick metal plates and patched repairs. It looked slow, unpolished, almost lazy in design. Imperial officers relaxed a little when they saw it. Collier smirked. See? Human tech is still behind. That station is outdated by at least 50 years. Merrill didn't answer. Her instincts gnawed at her. Something about the station bothered her. The lights were on, but no transmissions came from it. No patrol ships docked nearby. No movement at all. Scan for life, she said. Scanning, replied a technician. A moment later he frowned. Captain. I'm not detecting any life forms on the station. None? Merrill asked. None. Not even small ones. No signatures at all. A dead station. A silent station. Sitting in perfect orbit as if someone had placed it there intentionally. Another officer looked up. Captain, there's a file in our system memory. What file? We don't know, the officer said. It just appeared. Appeared? Merrill repeated. Files don't just appear. But this one had. She opened it on her personal console. The file contained a single image, an old human chessboard. All pieces in their starting positions. Nothing strange about it except for one detail. The human king was missing. Beneath the picture, one sentence blinked. You are looking in the wrong place. A chill ran down Merrill's spine. Collier whispered, they're playing with us. No, Merrill replied. They're guiding us. Before she could give another command, the fleet lights flickered. Just once, like the ships were holding their breath. Every officer froze. Engines hummed softly. Systems dimmed, then returned to normal. Report, she demanded. Minor power drop, an engineer said. Nothing critical. But each captain across the recon fleet felt the same cold fear. The humans had touched their systems again, lightly, gently, like a fingertip brushing across glass. Not enough to harm them. Just enough to remind them that the humans could. Another message appeared on every screen. We know why you are here. Merrill clenched her jaw. This fleet is supposed to be invisible. Collier gave a hollow laugh. Invisible to us, maybe. Not to them. Merrill did something she had not done in years, she felt fear. Not normal fear, but the kind that came when the rules of the universe began to change without your permission. Captain, a communications officer said suddenly, we're receiving a new signal. It's very faint. Origin? The officer shook his head. It's not coming from one place. It's coming from everywhere around us. The message began to play. It was a human voice, calm, gentle, steady. You do not need to be afraid, the voice said. We are not your enemy. But you crossed our borders without asking. We noticed. Meryl's heart hammered. She opened a channel. Identify yourself. A short pause. No. The single word wasn't hostile. It was simply a firm refusal. You are not ready to hear our names, the human said. Not yet. Meryl swallowed hard. What do you want from us? To understand you, the voice replied. To see if your empire remembers how to listen. That is the purpose of our mission, Meryl said carefully. Observation. Good, the human said, then observe. But observe from where you are. What does that mean? Turn back. Meryl stiffened. We cannot do that. You can, the human said. And you should. The message ended. The screens went blank. The silence returned. Collier's voice cracked slightly. Captain. Do we obey? Meryl stared at the empty void ahead. She felt the weight of her duty, the pride of the Empire, the expectations of the High Council. She also felt something new, a quiet warning, wrapped in calm human words. If she pushed forward, she knew the humans would not remain gentle forever. No, she said at last. We will not turn back. The recon fleet moved forward. Far away, unseen by any Imperial sensor, a small human probe drifted behind them. And its quiet signal pulsed twice, as if saying, very well. The human probe followed the recon fleet at a steady distance, drifting like a shadow that did not need stealth to stay unseen. It did not hide itself from Imperial sensors, because no sensor detected it at all. It moved as if it lived in a thin layer of space the Empire had never learned to look at. Captain Meryl did not know about the probe. She only knew that pushing deeper into human territory felt like walking blindfolded across unfamiliar ground. Every officer on the Shadow's Veil worked in tense silence. Every small alarm, every flicker of lights, every tiny sensor ping felt like a warning. But the fleet continued forward. Collier approached her station. We are nearing the inner colonies, Captain. Human space becomes denser ahead. More outposts, more ships, more stations. Good, Meryl said. We might finally see something normal. But nothing about this mission had been normal so far. The recon fleet reached the outer edge of a human trade route, a well-traveled corridor where cargo ships should have been moving. Instead, the route was empty. No transports. No escorts. No activity at all, just another silent path stretching into the darkness. Where is everyone? An officer murmured. They are hiding, another whispered. Meryl felt that too. The silence of human space was not peaceful. It was controlled, arranged, like someone had swept every object off a table and left it clean for a reason. A new sensor reading cut through the quiet. Contact. A technician shouted. Human vessel approaching. Small, fast. Design unknown. The screen displayed a tiny ship moving at unbelievable speed. It was barely larger than a fighter craft, with smooth surfaces and no visible weapons. It stopped in front of the recon fleet, completely still. Collier swallowed. They found us again. The tiny ship sent a single message. No words, just a sound. A soft click. Almost playful. Almost like a tap on a glass window. Then the ship vanished. Not cloaked. Not jumped. Not sped away. It simply disappeared. Meryl took a slow breath. Record that. Everything. The crew worked in shaken silence when suddenly another alert rang out. Captain, an officer said, we're receiving. A map? A map? She repeated. A holographic projection appeared over the bridge. It showed the recon fleet's exact location, surrounded by a soft circular outline. Around that circle were dozens of red markers. Human markers. They were completely surrounded. The human voice returned, calm and steady, just as before. You are entering our heartlands. You do not have permission. Meryl opened a channel. We are only observing. We have not fired a single weapon. That is true, the human replied. But you are still trespassing. We mean no harm. We know. If you meant harm, your empire would have sent battleships. Meryl tensed. They had known the Empire's military patterns. They had studied the fleet composition. They had predicted everything. What do you want from us? She asked again, to see how far you will go. The words hung in the air. The fleet officers shifted uneasily. Collier spoke in a low voice. Captain. Maybe we should turn back. This is beyond a recon mission. No, Meryl said firmly. We continue. The council expects answers. The human voice responded immediately, as if listening to every word on the ship. You will find no answers where you are going, it said. Only consequences. The hologram vanished. All sensors went silent. The tiny ship did not reappear. The recon fleet pressed deeper. Hours passed. The quiet grew heavier. Meryl felt the invisible pressure of a presence she could not see. Humans were out there, watching, measuring, thinking. Finally, sensors detected something large ahead. A human megastructure. A station unlike any other. It was enormous, bigger than any Empire platform, almost the size of a small moon. Its surface was smooth and silver, with lights running along geometric lines. It looked new. Advanced. Impossible. Meryl stared in shock. We've never seen anything like that. Collier nodded slowly. This is not human design. Humans don't build with perfect symmetry. They don't use structures like this. Yet the human symbol glowed proudly on the station's center. As the fleet approached, the station opened, massive panels shifting aside like quiet, sliding doors. A soft blue glow spilled outward. A message appeared on every Imperial screen. Come in. Or go home. Your choice. Meryl felt her throat tighten. The door was a trap. It had to be. But turning back now meant facing the High Council empty-handed. It meant failure, dishonor. We will enter, she said. Collier whispered, Captain, this is reckless. Maybe, she replied. But the Empire wants answers, and they're inside. The recon fleet slowly moved toward the open structure. The blue light wrapped around their hulls like soft mist. The moment they crossed the threshold, all ship lights dimmed. Engines slowed. Gravity shifted. And then everything stopped. The recon fleet hung motionless inside the massive human structure, unable to move even a single meter. Not by force, by control. Every console on Meryl's bridge flickered and went dark. Then a message appeared. You made your move. A pause. Now we make ours. Inside the massive human structure, the recon fleet floated motionless. No engines. No thrusters. No communication. The silence was suffocating, broken only by the faint hum of Imperial technology that could no longer move or function. Captain Meryl stood at the command console, her eyes scanning the screens, but there was nothing to see. All systems were offline, as if the very fabric of their ships had been frozen in place. Captain, Collier said in a low voice, his tone tight with unease. What happened? How are they doing this? Meryl's gaze shifted to the silent crew. No one had answers. No one had even the slightest idea of how the humans had done it. But they had. The human station was controlling their every movement, even though there were no visible ships around them. The voice came again, calm, patient, as though it had been waiting for this moment. You have entered our domain, the voice said. And now, we will speak. Meryl's throat went dry. She couldn't move. She couldn't speak. For the first time in her life, she felt truly powerless. Who are you? She demanded, her voice barely above a whisper. She hated how small it sounded. She was an Imperial officer, the captain of a powerful fleet, but in this moment, she felt like a child being held in the grip of something far beyond her comprehension. You do not need to know our name, the voice replied. But you may call us. Those who watch. Those who watch? Meryl repeated. What is this place? Why are you doing this? The voice responded with a soft laugh, not cruel but deeply knowing. This place is where we see. It is where we observe, learn, and decide. We have been watching your empire for a long time. Longer than you know. A chill crawled up Meryl's spine. The humans had been watching them for how long? How much did they know? How much had they seen? You're not just human, Meryl said, her words stumbling out. What are you? We are humans, the voice replied simply. But we are different. We have become something more. The voice paused, as though considering her next question. Your empire believes it is strong, the voice said slowly. You believe that your weapons make you powerful. But you do not understand the true nature of strength. You do not understand the strength of patience. Patience? Meryl echoed, her voice shaking. You've been watching us. Why? We did not wish for war, the voice replied. But you, your empire, have pushed too far. You have tested the wrong people, for too long. We did not want to intervene. But you left us no choice. The truth of the situation hit her like a punch to the stomach. The humans were not invaders. They were not conquerors. They were something far worse, something patient, something that understood how to watch, how to wait, and how to strike when it mattered most. The voice continued. We have allowed your empire to grow. We have allowed you to expand, to conquer, to consume. But you were always being watched, always being measured. Every step, every victory, every battle, it has all been part of our understanding. And now. The voice paused again. Now, it is time for you to understand us. Meryl's mind raced. She had always known the Empire was the strongest force in the galaxy. It was built on centuries of domination, of overwhelming force. But this was different. These humans had something else, something she couldn't explain. They had the power to stop everything, to hold the greatest fleet in the Empire motionless without lifting a finger. We are not your enemies, the voice said. But you are no longer welcome here. Your ships, your soldiers, your weapons, all of it is a symbol of the Empire's failure to understand what truly matters. Meryl felt a knot tighten in her chest. Then what happens now? She asked, though she already feared the answer. The voice's tone softened, as if to offer a small comfort. Now, we will let you leave. But know this, you will not return to your empire with the same understanding. We have given you a gift. A gift? Meryl echoed. What do you mean? Your move, Captain Meryl, the voice said. We have watched your empire for generations. Now, we have given you something in return, an understanding. You will see your future clearly, and you will know what your empire is truly capable of. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, slowly, the recon fleet systems came back online. Engines hummed softly to life. The ships moved once more, but now, they were moving under their own power. The strange feeling of being controlled, of being frozen in space, was gone. Go, the voice said. Return to your empire. But remember this, the game is no longer in your hands. Meryl's hands trembled as she looked at her officers. Every one of them had witnessed what had just happened. They had felt the power of the humans, and they understood now that the balance of power had shifted. The fleet turned slowly, cautiously, back toward the Imperial border. Meryl watched the massive structure shrink in the distance, its walls gleaming in the light of distant stars. As they moved farther away, a single message flashed on the screens of the fleet, just before the human presence vanished completely. We are watching. Meryl's heart thudded in her chest. This was not over. The humans were waiting. Watching. And now, they knew everything. And the Empire, for the first time in centuries, did not have control anymore. The recon fleet returned to the Imperial border, but it was not the same fleet that had left. The officers aboard the Shadow's Veil and the other ships had been changed. Their eyes were heavy with the knowledge of what had happened, what they had seen. They had been shown the limits of their power, the terrifying silence of human patience, and the impossible weight of something far beyond their understanding. Captain Meryl stood on the bridge of the Shadow's Veil, her hands gripping the console tightly. She had not spoken since they left the human structure. She hadn't known what to say. Nothing she could say would ever be enough to explain what they had experienced. The Empire had sent them to scout, to observe, but what they had learned was something that would haunt them forever. Captain, Talier's voice broke through the silence. He stood at her side, his face drawn. We've entered Imperial space. Meryl nodded without looking at him. Good. The fleet had passed through the boundary line separating human space from the Empire's territories. Their journey back had been swift, but it felt like 1,000 years. Every moment, the weight of what they had witnessed pressed down harder on her shoulders. Shall we send the report? Talier asked, his voice barely above a whisper. He knew the answer. Meryl's eyes drifted to the communication console. It was time. The Empire had to know what had happened, what they had learned. It wasn't just about the fleet. It was about the future. The Empire would have to change, or it would be crushed. Prepare the transmission, she said, but keep it brief. We can't afford to waste time. The report was sent in the next few minutes, encrypted with the highest security codes the Empire had. It would reach the High Council and the military leaders. But even as she hit the final command, Meryl knew that what they would hear would be hard to believe. The Empire had always been the most powerful force in the galaxy, and now they had learned that they were not the only ones who could rule the stars. The message was simple: the humans are no longer the weak, primitive species they once were. They have power beyond our understanding. They know our every move, and they are waiting. They will not allow us to continue unchecked. After the transmission was sent, Meryl finally allowed herself a moment to close her eyes. The hum of the ship was strangely soothing now, a sound that once felt so familiar, now carrying a strange emptiness. We should be ready, Talier said after a long pause. The Council won't take this lightly. Meryl opened her eyes and turned to face him. I don't think the Council will understand, she said quietly. But they will have no choice but to act. And I don't think the Empire is ready for what will come next. Back on the Imperial capital world of Kesset Prime, the High Council had already begun to convene. The fleet report had arrived with urgency, and the Council members gathered quickly, their faces tense with disbelief and unease. They had been told many things about the humans over the years, but this was different. This wasn't a threat of war. This was something deeper, something the Empire had never prepared for. Admiral Kithrin, the head of the council, a tall figure named Seinar, said, "What is your opinion on this report?" Kithrin, who had suggested the recon mission in the first place, was the first to speak. He had seen the fear in Meryl's eyes when she had left, and he knew that the truth she had brought back was something that could shatter everything the Empire had built. "I believe Captain Meryl's report is accurate," Kithrin said. His voice was steady, but there was no hiding the shadow of doubt that hung over his words. "We have underestimated the humans for too long. We believed them to be weak, primitive, and divided. But now, we see that they are much more than we ever imagined." "We've known they are capable of growth," Seinar replied, his tone cold. "But this is something different." Kithrin nodded grimly. "This is not just about military power. The humans are not trying to conquer us. They are watching. They are learning. They are waiting for the moment when we are vulnerable. They are playing with us," another counselor, Jalen, spoke up. "They have no intention of war. They are just showing us that they can control us whenever they want." "It's worse than that," Kithrin said. "They have not shown their full strength. What they've done to us is only a fraction of what they are capable of. They have the power to move us, to freeze us, to control our ships with ease. They could destroy our fleet in an instant if they wished." The council murmured in disbelief, but Kithrin's words hung heavy in the air. He knew that what he was saying would be hard to accept. The Empire had never faced a power like this before. No force in the galaxy had ever stood in their way for long. "We must respond," Seinar said finally. "We cannot allow this kind of threat to go unchecked." "Respond how?" Kithrin asked. "We can't fight them. We can't control them. They will always be one step ahead of us." Seinar clenched his fists. "Then we must find a way to deal with them. We cannot let them make fools of us." "Let them make fools of us?" Kithrin repeated. "They've already done that." Seinar stood, his face flushed with anger. "Then we will make them fight. We will force them to show us what they're truly capable of." Kithrin looked at the others in the room. He could see the fear in their eyes, but he also saw something else: pride, stubbornness, the desire to prove that the Empire was still in control. But Kithrin knew better. He had seen the future in the cold silence of human space. The Empire could fight them, yes. But it would not win. The humans had already won the game. Back on the Shadow's Veil, Captain Meryl stared out into space. The stars were distant, cold, and indifferent to what was happening below. But in her heart, she knew that the humans had shown them the truth. The game had changed. And the Empire had no idea how to play. The Imperial High Council was in chaos. Kithrin's report had shaken them to their core. The human presence in the galaxy was not something that could be ignored anymore. They were a force beyond the Empire's understanding, waiting, watching, and quietly waiting for the moment when the Empire's pride would collapse. For the first time in history, the Empire wasn't the predator. It was the prey. Kithrin stood in front of the council, his face grim. He had warned them, but now they were listening, too late. "You cannot defeat them with force," Kithrin said. "They are not interested in war. They are interested in understanding. In observation. They are watching us, waiting for the Empire to reveal its weaknesses." Seinar, the head of the council, stood up. His anger was barely contained. "We are the Empire. We are the strongest power in the galaxy. How can we allow these humans to undermine us like this?" Kithrin's voice remained calm, but the weight of his words made it clear how serious the situation was. "We cannot fight what we do not understand. The humans are not like us. They do not need ships, weapons, or armies. They know how to wait, how to move quietly, how to break us without firing a single shot." Seinar slammed his fist down on the table, making the holograms flicker. "Then what do you suggest we do? Sit here and let them laugh at us?" "Not laugh," Kithrin replied. "Observe." The counselors exchanged uneasy glances. The idea that they were being watched, studied, weighed by these humans, was too much for many of them to bear. Their empire was built on domination, on force. How could they admit that something as small, as insignificant as humans, could outsmart them? But Kithrin knew what had to be done. "We need to change how we think. If we continue down this path, we will find ourselves defeated without even realizing it. The humans are not here to conquer us. They are here to make us change. To make us see what we've become. And if we refuse, they will let us destroy ourselves." There was a long silence in the council chamber. Kithrin could feel the weight of their doubt, The stubborn pride that was slowly giving way to fear. They had never faced a threat like this before, and they had no idea how to respond. Seinar finally spoke, his voice low. Then we must find a way to show them that we are not weak. That we will not bend. Kithrin shook his head. If you force a confrontation, you will lose. The humans have already shown you that. They do not need weapons to defeat you. They simply need patience. The council remained silent, the reality of the situation sinking in. Back on the Shadow's Veil, Meryl stood in the quiet of the bridge, looking out at the stars. She could feel the weight of what had happened. The message from the humans was clear. The game had changed, and the Empire no longer controlled the board. They had been given a choice, a chance to change or to continue down a path of destruction. But would they listen? The fleet was on its way back to Kesset Prime. The report had been sent, the council would take action, but Meryl knew that whatever came next would not be a war. It would be a test. A test to see if the Empire could adapt, if it could change, if it could understand. But Meryl had no illusions. The Empire would never change. It was too proud, too set in its ways. The council would fight. They would struggle, and they would fail. And the humans would watch. The following days were filled with tension. The Imperial fleet began to prepare for what they thought would be a showdown, gathering ships and preparing weapons. But the humans did not respond. They did not call for war. They did not send messages or threats. They waited. The silence of human space was deafening. Meryl knew it was only a matter of time before the Empire would make its move. But she also knew that the humans had already won. They had shown the Empire that strength was not just about weapons. Strength was patience. Understanding. Waiting. And when the Empire finally realized that, it would be too late. On the final day, the Imperial fleet gathered on the borders of human space, ready to strike. The Council had made its decision, they would show the humans that they were not afraid. But Meryl, standing on the bridge of the Shadow's Veil, could feel the fear in the air. It was not the fear of battle. It was the fear of knowing that they were about to lose, and they could not stop it. As the fleet moved forward, a final message appeared on every ship's screen. Checkmate. The words echoed through the fleet, and Meryl understood. The Empire had played its last move. They had pushed the humans too far. Now, it was over. The fleet froze. Their weapons failed. Their engines died. And once again, the humans had won. Without lifting a finger, they had defeated the Empire. Meryl looked out at the stars, knowing that the game was over. The Empire had been outplayed, and the humans, quietly waiting in the background, had proven that sometimes, the greatest strength is knowing when not to fight. The humans had won. And for the first time in Imperial history, the Empire understood what true power was. Patience. And the ability to wait.